You're standing in your own kitchen. It's 7:15. The bus comes in 20 minutes, and you do the thing you've done 1,000 mornings in a row. You reach for the box, you tip it into the bowl, pour the milk, slide it across the counter to a kid who's still half asleep. It feels like the most ordinary, harmless thing a parent can do. That's the part nobody tells you. The trouble was never that you were careless. You read labels. You bought the one with the whole grain stamp, or the heart on the front, or the word diet in the corner, because you were trying to do this right. You didn't get fooled because you weren't paying attention. You got fooled because the front of the box is an advertisement, and the ingredient list on the back is the confession, and almost nobody flips the box over. Americans go through more than 2.7 billion boxes of cereal a year. And here's the quiet fact underneath that number. The FDA does not require anyone to test breakfast cereal for the combined, day-after-day effect of the additives and pesticide residue it's legally allowed to contain. Legal is not the same as tested. Legal is not the same as safe. Today we're going through 7 cereal brands, worst to first, real brands, the ones already in your cabinet, and the 2 that actually earned a pass. And I'll tell you now where this ends, because it's the part that stings. The worst one isn't the Neon Kids cereal with the cartoon bird. It's the box you switched to. The one with the little heart on it. The one you started buying because you were finally being responsible. Keep that in your head. We start at number 7. So let's agree on one rule first, because it's the only tool you actually need. The front of the box is marketing. The back of the box is the truth. Every fact in this video comes straight off the ingredient panel, the published lab tests, or federal law, not off the cheerful cardboard on the front. And one honest note before we start. Finding a chemical in a food is not the same as proving that food harmed you. Doses matter, and a lot of this research is still ongoing. I'm going to keep telling you where the line sits between measured and proven, because that line is exactly what the marketing wants you to forget. Number 7. Froot Loops. Toucan Sam, the rainbow, the promise that each color is its own flavor. A promise most of us figured out was a lie by about age 6. Every loop tastes the same, but that harmless little lie sits on top of a bigger one. Froot Loops carries 4 synthetic dyes at once. Red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, and blue 1. Every one of them made from petroleum. Not trace amounts, either. Pour a bowl, add the milk, and watch it. Within a minute, the milk goes cloudy and colored because the dye is leaching straight off the cereal. That color isn't fruit. There is no fruit. This is the part that matters. In 2007, researchers at the University of Southampton ran a controlled trial on about 300 children and found that mixtures of these artificial colors produced a small but measurable rise in hyperactivity. It wasn't the end of the story. European regulators looked at the same data and called the effect limited. But they did something we didn't. To this day, a product sold in the UK or the EU carrying these dyes has to print a warning right on the label. May have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. Same cereal, same dye, 2 continents. One prints the warning. One prints a cartoon. That's finally starting to shift on this side of the ocean. By 2025, a string of states had moved to pull these same dyes out of school food, but shift is the operative word. It's still in the box on your shelf right now. Hold on to Froot Loops. It's going to look almost honest compared to what's coming, because at least it never pretended to be good for you. Number 6. Cap'n Crunch. Here's its whole sales pitch in one line. It stays crunchy in milk. People say that like it's a feature. Stop and think about what you're actually describing. You've got a food engineered so completely that milk can't soften it. The pieces are built with an oil coating that resists moisture, which is why they don't go soft in the bowl and why dentists have a nickname for the cuts they leave on the roof of your mouth. They call it Cap'n Crunch Mouth. That's not a slogan. That's an abrasion common enough that people who look inside mouths for a living gave it a name. The oils that make that possible need a preservative to keep from going rancid, and the one on the label is BHT, a synthetic antioxidant that a few countries restrict and that health agencies are still studying for effects on the liver and thyroid. And for years, that same oil coating carried partially hydrogenated oil, the artificial trans fat, the FINDA finally forced out of the food supply by 2018, decades after the heart risk was understood. Nobody's calling what's in the box today a poison. What I'm telling you is narrower and honestly more damning. It's in there so the oil lasts longer on a shelf, not so the food is better for you. Every choice on this box optimizes for durability and profit. None of them optimize for the kid eating it. And we're only at number 6. Number 5. Lucky Charms. The leprechaun. The marshmallows. Magically delicious. Kids don't reach for the tan cereal bits, and General Mills knows it. The marshmallows are the whole point, and the marshmallows are close to pure sugar and dye. Same petroleum colors we just talked about, plus one ingredient people get loud about online: trisodium phosphate. And yes, trisodium phosphate has industrial uses. It turns up in some cleaning products. But I'm going to be straight with you, because the scary version isn't the honest one. In cereal, it's used in tiny amounts as an acidity regulator, and the FDA allows it. You are not scrubbing your basement with your breakfast. The honest problem with Lucky Charms is smaller and worse than the internet version. It's a bowl of refined grain, sugar, corn syrup, and color, then fortified with synthetic vitamins to replace the nutrition that processing stripped out in the first place and marketed to children as part of a complete breakfast. The tell is that word, complete. A breakfast that was actually complete wouldn't need vitamins added back in to earn the word nutritious. You're not buying food that's good and getting a treat. You're buying the treat and getting told it's good. If this is already changing how that aisle looks to you, a quick like genuinely helps more people find this before their next grocery run. Now, the 3 that are dressed up as the smart choice. Number 4. Frosted Flakes. 3 generations, 1 tiger, that same orange box. And here's where the ranking turns, because Frosted Flakes is the bridge between the cereals that admit they're candy and the ones that lie about it. One serving carries about 12 grams of added sugar, roughly 3 teaspoons in a 3/4 cup bowl. The American Heart Association says a child should get no more than 25 grams of added sugar in an entire day. One bowl with milk spends nearly half of that before the bus arrives. But the sugar isn't the reason it's here. Look at the flakes, that almost bleached, unnaturally even look. Then look at the panel for the color and the same BHT we saw a minute ago. This is a good place to learn a phrase that's about to matter: the Delaney Clause. It's a piece of U.S. law from 1958 that says the FDA cannot approve any additive shown to cause cancer in people or animals. For decades, the dye industry worked around it. Then in January 2025, using exactly that clause, the FDA finally revoked Red No. 3, a dye that caused cancer in lab rats, and gave companies until 2027 to pull it out of food. Sit with that timeline. The science was old. The law was old. The removal is brand new. The question was never whether the system protects you. It's how many decades it makes you wait, which is the perfect setup for number 3, because number 3 sells itself as the opposite of all this. Number 3. Special K. The red box, the slim model, the whole quiet promise of dropping a jean size by summer. Special K didn't sell you cereal. It sold you portion control and a body. And it's one of the most effective pieces of marketing in the entire aisle. So let me give you the mechanism, because this is where you learn the term glycemic index. Glycemic index is just a number for how fast a food turns into blood sugar. Pure glucose sits at 100. Special K's flakes are thin, refined rice and wheat with the fiber and bran processed out, which means they hit your blood sugar fast and high, closer to eating candy than eating grain. Fast spike, fast crash. And a blood sugar crash doesn't feel like willpower failing. It feels like hunger at 10 in the morning, 90 minutes after a diet breakfast. That's the trap. The cereal sold as the tool for eating less is built to make you hungry sooner. But there's a detail that reframes the whole box, and almost nobody knows it yet. As of September 2025, Special K isn't even owned by a cereal company anymore. Kellogg's North American cereals were bought for $3.1 billion by Ferrero. The company that makes Nutella and Kinder chocolate. Read that again. The chocolate company now owns your diet cereal. The idea that this box and a candy bar came from opposite worlds was always the illusion. Now it isn't even that. Number 2. Raisin Bran. And I mean both of them, the Kellogg's box and the Post box, because they run the same play. This is the grown-up cereal. Fiber, real fruit, the responsible bowl you eat for your digestion and your heart. So let's flip it over. One serving carries around 18 grams of sugar. That is more sugar than Frosted Flakes. The Tiger cereal, we all agree, is candy. Some of it is the raisins, sure, but the makers also coat those raisins in added sweetener and sugar the flakes on top of that, because bran on its own tastes like the box it came in. And there's a second thing forming in that bowl that never shows up on the front: acrylamide. Acrylamide is a compound that forms on its own when starchy foods are baked or toasted at high heat. The darker and more processed the flake, the more of it tends to be there. The World Health Organization's Cancer Research Agency lists it as a probable human carcinogen, the same category as the weed killer we're about to get to. Now, the honest line: acrylamide shows up in a lot of baked and roasted foods, and probable is doing real work in that sentence. This is about long-term exposure, not one bowl. But that's the whole point of the health halo. Raisin Bran isn't sold as an occasional thing. It's sold as the wise daily habit. 18 grams of sugar and a probable carcinogen every single morning, with a picture of the sun on the box. Which leaves number one, the one you switch to on purpose. Number one, Honey Nut Cheerios. Of course it is. The most sold cereal in America. The little yellow box with the heart-shaped bowl and the bee. The one your doctor basically nodded at, the one you moved your whole family to because oats are heart healthy, and this was you finally doing it right. That's exactly why it sits at number one. The betrayal is biggest where the trust runs deepest. There's a word the marketing never uses: desiccant. Most oats grown in this country are sprayed with glyphosate, the weed killer, and Roundup shortly before harvest, not to kill weeds, but to dry the whole crop out fast and evenly so it's easier to bring in. That's called desiccation. The spray goes on late, the oats aren't washed clean of it, and the residue rides the oat all the way into your bowl. This isn't a rumor. The Environmental Working Group lab-tested oat cereals and found glyphosate across General Mills Cheerios lines, plain Cheerios at 729 parts per billion, one Honey Nut line at 833 against the group's own health benchmark for children of 160. That's roughly 5 times over. And the World Health Organization's Cancer Agency classifies glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans. Now the honest part, because this is number one and you deserve the real line, not the scary one. Those levels are legal. They sit under the EPA's limit, and General Mills will tell you exactly that, and on the law, they're right. And look at how wide that gap is. The EPA's tolerance for glyphosate on oats is 30 parts per million. That's 30,000 parts per billion. So a residue running about 5 times a children's health benchmark is still sitting hundreds of times under the number that would make it illegal. Nobody broke a rule here. That's the ceiling, working exactly as it was written. That 160 benchmark is a health protective number set by a watchdog group, not a legal ceiling, and no one has proven that a single bowl of Cheerios harms a specific child. So why is it number one? Because you did everything right. And the reward was the highest weed killer residue on this entire list. The heart on the front is the marketing. The desiccant on the oat is the confession. Nowhere else does the gap between the promise and the panel open up this wide. So go pull your boxes right now. Froot Loops, Cap'n Crunch, Lucky Charms, Frosted Flakes, Special K, Raisin Bran, Honey Nut Cheerios. 7 boxes, 7 versions of the same move. Now pause the countdown, because if you think 7 different companies each independently decided to do this to you, you've got the picture wrong. Look at who actually owns the shelf. Those 7 brands trace back to essentially 3 parents. Frosted Flakes, Froot Loops, Special K, and Kellogg's Raisin Bran now belong to Ferrero, the Italian chocolate company, as of September 2025. Honey Nut Cheerios and Lucky Charms are General Mills. Cap'n Crunch is Quaker, which is PepsiCo. The wall of colorful boxes that looks like 100 choices is a handful of corporations wearing 100 costumes. That's the first thing the aisle hides. The choice is mostly an illusion, and the language did the rest of the quiet work. That phrase you grew up hearing, part of this complete breakfast, was never a nutrition standard. It was an advertising line, and the whole trick lived in the word part. The milk, the juice, the toast next to the bowl were the things doing the completing. As for how so many of these additives got cleared in the first place, a lot of them ride a rule called generally recognized as safe a lane where, for years, a company could decide its own new ingredient qualified and simply notify the FDA after the fact. Self-certified safety on a food you hand a 5-year-old before school. And here's the quiet part underneath all of it. None of this is a conspiracy, and I want to be careful with that word. It's something more boring and harder to fix. The system is built for shelf life, for cheap calories, and for a label that clears the legal bar, and it turns out the legal bar and the healthy bar were never the same bar. Glyphosate as a drying shortcut is legal. Petroleum dyes that Europe makes companies warn about are legal here. BHT in the oil is legal. A cereal can be legal in every ingredient it holds and still be built for everything except the person eating it. The marketing never had to lie. It just had to let you assume that allowed on the shelf meant checked for you. It never did. And before you go run the test, you've probably seen online the one where somebody mashes cereal into a slurry, drags a magnet through it, and pulls out little black shavings like it's a scandal. Let me save you the trouble. That one's real, and it proves nothing. The metal it pulls out is added iron. It's the fortification, the same iron the label promises you, in a form crude enough that a magnet can grab it. And your stomach acid dissolves it just fine. Yanking iron filings out of a bowl makes a great video and tells you nothing. The real evidence was never hiding in a magnet trick. It was printed on the back of the box the whole time, in a font they hoped you'd never read. So which one's passed? And I want to be honest about what passed even means, because it's the same test that failed the other 7, not a softer one. No petroleum dyes, no pre-harvest weed killer riding the grain, sugar low enough that a serving isn't half a child's daily limit, and an owner that isn't hiding behind a costume. The first one is 3 wishes. It isn't made from grain at all. It's built on chickpeas, pea protein, and tapioca, which is why a serving runs about 3 grams of sugar and 8 grams of protein instead of the 10 to 18 grams of sugar we kept reading off the failures. No artificial colors, no synthetic preservatives, and it isn't a giant hiding a diet claim. It's an independent company started in 2019 by 2 founders who put the ingredient list on the front because there's nothing on it to bury. It costs more, around $7 or $8 a box. I'm not going to pretend that doesn't matter. But notice what the premium is actually buying. The absence of the exact things that put the other 7 on this list. The one at the very top is Nature's Path Organic. And this is the twist that ties the whole video together. The winner isn't the biggest brand or the slickest box. It's the one that hides the least. Nature's Path has been family-owned since 1985, still independent, one of the last major organic cereal makers left that nobody bought out. Because it's certified organic, the grain can't be sprayed with a synthetic desiccant, which means the single worst problem on this list, the glyphosate that put Honey Nut Cheerios at number 1, is designed out from the start, not marketed away, farmed away. Same criteria that sank the losers. This is just the box that meets them instead of dodging them. And one warning while you're standing in that aisle, because the health halo has a second layer. Some of the boxes that look like the clean choice, the tan packaging, the word natural, the ancient grains, belong to the very same parents as the failures. Kashi, the granola and good intentions brand, is a Kellogg's line, which means it went to Ferrero too. Being owned by a giant doesn't automatically make a cereal bad. But the box designed to look independent and the box that actually is independent are not the same box. Turn both of them over. The panel doesn't know how to market. It can only list. Now here's how you check any box in your own kitchen tonight, without taking my word for anything. 3 quick tests. 1. The read test. Flip any box over and scan the ingredient list for these 6 color names. Red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, blue 1, blue 2, and green 3. Those are the exact 6 California voted to pull out of school food starting in 2027. If your kid's breakfast contains what a state just banned from your kid's lunch, that's worth a second look. It's the fastest 30-second audit you can run. 2. The milk test. Pour milk over a brightly colored cereal and wait 3 minutes. If the milk turns the color of the cereal, that's petroleum dye leaching out, the same thing that happens in the bowl before you ever finish it. Fair warning, this one's a demonstration, not proof of harm. It just makes the dye load visible instead of theoretical. 3. The sugar math. Find the added sugars line, take the grams, and multiply by how many bowls a week get eaten in your house. Then hold it against the American Heart Association's 25 grams a day for a child. Most people run that number once and quietly change what's in the cabinet. Not out of fear, just because once you've done the arithmetic, you can't unknow it, and do the version of that math that really lands. A single daily bowl of an 18-gram cereal adds up to more than 6,500 grams of added sugar in a year, over 14 pounds going into one child, from breakfast alone, out of the box marketed as the responsible one. You didn't choose that. You chose a picture of a sunrise and a word like bran. The sugar came standard, and the arithmetic was never printed anywhere near the front. So here's what you can read now that you couldn't 20 minutes ago. You know the front of the box is an ad, and the ingredient panel on the back is the confession. You know a desiccant is the weed killer sprayed on oats to dry them before harvest, and why heart-healthy Honey Nut Cheerios carried the most of it. You know the glycemic index is why a diet cereal like Special K can leave you hungrier by mid-morning. You know acrylamide is the probable carcinogen that forms when starchy flakes are baked dark, sitting in the wholesome Raisin Bran. You know the Delaney Clause is the 1958 law that took until 2025 to pull one cancer-linked dye. You know that 7 brands wearing 7 faces mostly answer to 3 owners, one of them a chocolate company. And you know that legal was never a synonym for safe. None of this needed a chemistry degree. It needed someone to turn the box over, which the whole system was betting you'd never bother to do. That bet is what just expired. If this changed how the cereal aisle looks to you, do one thing with it. Send it to the person you know who just switched their family to the healthy box, the one with the heart on it, because they're the one who was trying the hardest, and they're the one this was built to fool. That's the whole reason to pass it on. Read the back of the box. That's where they hid it.